Welcome. This is the August 28th Environmental Management Commission meeting. We have quorum. I think I'll go around the room and the screen and let everybody introduce themselves. I think Dot's the one that gets the official meeting room. So if you want to go first.
Oh, yes, I'm Dot Norris, District 8, and yeah, I'm in the North Kona area.
Good. Georgine Adams, District 9 Chair, happen to be on the East Coast, so I'll be falling asleep in a couple hours. Dell?
Del Otsuka, District 3.
Is there
Good morning.
Mute?
And the ghost like Erica. You want to say
Aloha, good morning. Erica Perez, District 4.
okay.
Sorry for the delay.
You must have a lot of light behind you.
You know, it's
glowing.
the video. It's really just the video. It gives me a little halo, right?
And Jim?
Yes, Jim Beats, District 1.
And Laura Casio.
Laura Ocasio, District 2, also chiming in from California.
Ah, here we are.
Ha.
Global people. I think we might get another that Lee will be joining us later. I know we have two absent today, Gonzalo Garcia and I'm just blanking. I'm sorry. I'm still jet lagged. So we'll go ahead and start our meeting. Call to order at 9:12 your time, Hawaii time. And ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting of August 2nd. Dell?
I just have a couple of things I want a clarification on based on.
We need a second to discuss. We have a second on the minutes?
Second, Laura Ocasio.
Laura, thank you. You had a clarification?
Yeah, to discuss further pages at least 27 to 30 regarding the operational study. And that was having to do with the closure of some of the solid transfer stations.
And I'm not sure what your question is regarding the minutes of that meeting that we had.
I just wanted to be able to discuss it further. Because once it's done, we accept it. That's it, right? Unless you want us to, or you want me to bring it up as another agenda item.
Yeah, I would need to be agendized for this meeting.
Okay.
And I believe we do have, or did have, the subject of the Kalapana transfer station on the agenda. Is that in the area of what you want to discuss?
No, it was based on the recommendation to look at having the operational study look at maybe possibly closing some transfer stations.
Deputy Corporation Sinclair. So the minutes, right now is if anyone has any corrections to the minutes, do the minutes accurately reflect what happened? So that's what the discussion is now. It sounds like, Del, you're talking about proposed future agenda items, which is also on the agenda today at the bottom of the agenda. So right now it's just, does anyone have any corrections to the minutes? Yes or no?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we are going to get a report from DEM on the solid waste study. So perhaps we can address some of your questions at that point. But as far as the minutes go, they stand okay.
Okay.
I'm hearing no objections. Any objections? I'll approve the minutes of August 2nd. Statement from the chair. Glad you're here. Glad you survived the hurricane, and can't wait till the next one.
Whoopee!
lots of things going. I think we'll have interesting discussions today. So looking forward to it. Do we have anybody online? Or I guess Kona is the meeting room. That would like to make public statements on the agenda. I know we received three, two-part for one of the submissions from written testimony. Are any of the attendees interested in giving oral testimony either now or at the time we discuss an agenda item? If you could raise your
I have a quick
hand.
question regarding testimony.
Yes.
Was there additional testimony that was submitted? I believe that there was additional testimony and I just didn't know if it was shared.
Well, Peter, I'll let you
I was
speak
gonna say
to
it might be a Peter question.
what you
More
received.
specifically. Yeah.
I see three on our reference file.
Oh, okay. See, so maybe I'm not scrolling correctly. That's why I asked.
So there's a
Where
testimony folder for this meeting. If you go to the agenda, how you enter that set of documents.
okay, I was just looking at the attachments.
Hmm.
So
I didn't see a
there's
folder.
folder. When you go to the agenda for today's meeting, 2408/28 EMC, there are several PDFs, including the minutes, the agenda, a couple of reports on green waste, cesspool, the pig report, and then there's a testimony folder. Are you not
I
seeing
don't
that?
see what you're seeing. I see, are you referring to the EMC August 28th Kona and Zoom email from Peter?
No, Peter, can you send her the link to our,
Let's put the link in the chat box. You can click on that link, it goes to laser fishing. That's all.
Hmm.
I'm sorry
'Cause I
about
only-
that. I apologize, Peter. I must, yeah, it's something on my end. I just don't see what you're referring to.
Well, like you, I only have one testimony.
Yes,
That's all I could pull
same.
up.
I
Yeah.
have Steve Holmes' testimony,
That's
correct.
the only one
And
I
I don't
have.
see a folder.
well, I found one. And it's public documents, environmental management commission, agendas, 2024, 2408, 28, and then a folder on testimony. So
Great. Can you
there
share?
it is. That's what I see.
Oh, you have to go into that. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going off of the email. I didn't go into here, is why.
Okay.
Yeah. For me
So
too.
that's actually a good lesson for me is that I actually really focus on Peter's emails and I actually rarely go in here. And so I'm going to go back to like first day of coming onto the EMC, I guess, where would this be? That's linked in the agenda. How would you get that from Peter's email? Or should I just automatically be going
I
into
don't
this
think he
platform?
has it in his email.
It's in
at
the
least not
calendar
this
entry.
time.
It's linked in the calendar, county calendar. There's a link to the
Oh, okay.
agenda and other files.
Okay.
So I
Sometimes I
have to
send
go to
this
the
out.
county website. Okay.
Sometimes I remember to send out to you guys.
Chair, I think the
Maybe, Peter,
confusion.
you could send out this link every time you start filling up our agenda, our meeting materials folder.
Because I think you used to do that, where I used to try to go in and sometimes could never open it up.
Yeah, it seems to be persnickety and how you've gotten to it.
I'm so sorry. And so there's a calendar invite. Is that where you're saying, Peter? That's where it's located?
For Peter, so the county website has a county electronic calendar. That's where the county posts. It's required under the law to post a notice for all of its meetings. So if you just Google County of Hawaii, it pulls up that main website, and you scroll to the bottom, there'll be a county calendar. and then you click on the environmental management notice of meeting, and then it'll have the agenda and a link to all the documents for the meeting. I can walk you through it if you want to at any time.
Yeah, or even if even if it could be added to Peter's email, would be fantastic as just
Yeah.
a link to be able to go and find additional resources or for the
Oh.
meeting. That would be fantastic. I would really appreciate that.
Okay,
Sorry. I know
I put
Peter
it
has
on
so much
Peter's
doing
to-do list.
already.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. It's hard to keep up with, and you've got to look for the latest thing that has come through. I think one item got added even yesterday, on an update on the, green waste report. So, as chair, I always have been going in there, see, what did he add now? What's the latest scoop? To see documents that are there. So we'll make sure that everybody gets that link and get to it. Laura, you had a comment.
Just Chair, thank you. Just for the sake of clarification, I think the confusion is because the meeting packet email had everything and then it did have one testimony. So I know, and the other testimonies probably came in after, so nobody's fault, but just because all of the packet looked like it was in the email.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and the link, the fiche link doesn't work for me as well as it. Commissioner Perez.
There's some magic to get into it. Once I got my hooks into it, I've never taken down that link. So it's always kind of alive and
Tell me
ready
your
for me
ways,
to look at it.
Georgine. Tell me your ways. I just love
It's-
having all the information.
It is frustrating. It does act like you need to be a tricky person to access some of these documents. But Peter is the whiz, so we will make sure that he gets the information out to you guys. What we got late, perhaps, not late technically, because technically people could submit up until yesterday morning, were some information from Barbara Bell. I don't know if you two had a chance to talk. She's not able to be at this meeting. So she submitted some information about pool call. And when we get to that, since you guys might not have had a chance to look at what she wrote, I'll try to summarize it. So remind me to do that when we get there.
Georgine, I've got one quick question on that.
Yeah.
I see two documents. Are we going to be referring to one specific document from Barbara?
What she did was to provide her comments, and then she provided a copy of a newsletter that Pool Call for Reefs, this
Right,
nonprofit
right.
they've set up.
But
So it's a copy of that newsletter, and it's kind of an attachment to her written
just
comment.
background for her testimony.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So we'll make sure you get a copy of it just for background information, because there's some good stuff there. And it is publicly available. So it was nice for her to, I think she must have just finished writing it up. So it's been published now. So back to my original question before I walk all over anybody. Was there anybody online who would like to give testimony from the public? Hearing nothing, I'll assume what we've got are two testifiers. So everybody did get a chance to read Steve Holmes' comments, correct? At least you had the opportunity to. So let me go ahead. Oops, I got 14 of them open here. Barbara Bell had some interesting comments. And maybe what I could do is raise them when we get to, I think Erica had a question about Poco. Yeah, so let me bring that up when we get there, instead of having to remember what she said between us So if I may, pipe up if you don't want me to, go to our unfinished business item 5.1, which is the permitted interaction group on cesspools and sanitation, deliberation and decision-making on the findings and recommendations presented by the permitted interaction group on cesspools and sanitation at the meeting of the EMC last August the 2nd. And in the agenda we have, and maybe you could put those up, Peter, draft recommendations, in the PIG, report that we heard. This is the time now that we can discuss it and make motions if you were so moved, to do that. First, I guess the question would be, are there some clarifications to what you heard? Or would you like to move through each of the recommendations that were made in that report? Okay, nobody's jumping up and down, so why don't we just go through, and again, Peter, I don't know if that's kosher, to show the list, and we could just work through the 6 recommendations that were made by the PIG. Is he trying to do that? Maybe while he's trying to do that, I'll read the first one. That the wastewater division, oh, good. Then I won't have to read it. Go up, down, no, to the recommendations. Okay, there we go. So all properties within fill in the blank feet of a public or private sewer line should be required to connect to a sewer, presumably, instead of the current 300 feet. And the second part of that is not only do you need to connect, but that the county should collect a connection fee for all new connections to a public sewer.
So Georgine, this is Sinclair again. Sorry. I'm not sure
ahead.
how you guys did it in the past, or how you'd like to do it now, but you're making decisions today on whether or not to recommend something to council and DEM. So it might make sense to walk through each of these individually. Perhaps somebody can make a motion, I make a well, 1A doesn't have a definitive number. So maybe somebody can make a motion, I make a motion that we advise. I don't know if you guys want to advise council and DEM or just DEM on that particular issue, but the example for this one would be, I make a motion that we recommend to DEM that all properties within 400 feet should be required to connect to a sewer line instead of the current 300 feet. Then you get a second, then you go into discussion, and then you yay or nay move on to the next one.
Would anyone of the commissioners care to make a motion on 1A?
And you can make a motion just to open up discussion. You don't have to be, wedded to whatever your motion is. It can just be to start the discussion.
Just a question, do we know at what point do we connect the 90% or 100% of the connections that we need to make? Do we know that area yet, or it's hard to put a number in there unless you actually know, what the percentage that we can accommodate?
Yeah, I think I recommend somebody just throw a number in there and then you guys discuss.
Yeah, so somebody make a pretend motion. Pick a number, and then we can get a second, and then we can open discussion. So Dot, pick a number and make a motion.
900 feet.
How many?
900.
900 feet. Okay. Do we have a second for 900 feet? Feel like an auctioneer. 900, 900, 900, 1100, 1100.
Georgine,
I'll
I second.
Okay, and then open for discussion. What's the basis for the change in the number of feet? I've heard Ramsey say 300 is awful restrictive. I think Dot makes a good comment about we want to capture a goodly number more, but not maybe more than we could even conceivably accomplish. So what's a reasonable number?
I think the higher the number, oh, hi. I just
Eric,
think that,
or was it? I can't see your mouth, Del. Is
oh,
that you?
sorry, I'm still working on my muscles. I think the higher the number, the more difficult it becomes, if I understand this correctly. So, because the 300 was the threshold up until I don't know when that made it.
Currently.
Yeah. So, I still think that's a little too far to require people. I mean, the closer they are to where the hookup will be, I think the better as regards to the cost. But then a lot of places down in Kilkaha, the lots are like an acre, so they're farther away from the line. So the farther it is, the more expensive it becomes. Correct? I think that's what I'm understanding.
That's what I understand.
Yeah. So the farther it is, the harder it becomes for anyone to try and hook up because it'll be just too expensive.
Can we ask Ramsey to pipe in?
Sure. My recommendation to you guys is kind of hold off on making any recommendation. The reason is our consultant is defining the sewer service area. So our intent, anybody within the sewer service area must connect under the current AOC, because the AOC, it defines sewer service area, and any development within that sewer service area must connect to sewer. So technically, distance may not become an issue because now you restricted to the sewer service area as per the AOC.
So the sewer
So
service area is being defined by whom?
Corolla. Now we're working on that cesspool conversion master plans, as you all know, and we're working on the fact planning for each facility. So that study is going to determine how many people we could be able to connect to each facility within the sphere of influence and within the capacity of each facility. Therefore, probably the projection would be any new development subdivisions within that service area must be connected to sewer, because that's what the administrative order of consent from EPA requires. So
are
the
there
mandate.
guidelines for how big you define a service area to be?
The surface area is defined based on multiple factors controlled by the current capacity of the plant and accessibility to sewer, to collection sewer line. So, because we cannot exceed the capacity of the plant, so the criteria is define the area that could provide a sewer service within the sphere of influence of 5 MGD for Kalakaua, for example. So they run the hydraulic model on the collection system to see the capability and capacity of that collection system. And they convey that to number of connections and accessibility to the current collection system become the highest to connect. So the idea is, yes, and eventually this is going to drive the policies and procedures once the study is complete to confirm with the mandated AOC requirement from EPA.
Okay, Jim, you had a comment.
Yes, Jim Beats, District 1. This is a question to Ramsey. Ramsey, what's the proposed, I guess, deadline for the study completion?
Do we have Chris Sparber? I think there's multiple facets to the studies. We have multiple contract with them. The intent was sometime end of this year or early next year for the cesspool conversion master plan, and then the fact planning will thereafter. So probably within this coming year, we should have all the integrated waste management plan complete in place. There's a lot of information that we are collecting and become part of that study. And maybe if next meeting we'll have one of our staff present to you guys where we are. Remember, this is the same consultant that did a public meetings back in February, and we invited everyone. So I encourage you to participate. There's a upcoming meeting as well. The second meeting probably coming up in September or October. So that kind of defines, when we had the first meeting with the public, we had 4 meetings across the island. So we have 4 meetings. We put advertisement out, newsletters, notification to people to attend these meetings so they could add input. And we put also on our website, we done survey, we done soliciting information. It is very important that everybody get involved, so we could have as much information as we can developing these master plans. Because
Well, I think the point of this motion would be that the EMC recommends people who are on the way far side of a service area would have to connect. And so right now, if public comment's coming in, they're thinking 300 feet. And we're talking about expanding the 300 feet.
Well, that 300 feet is not going to be within the AOC mandate. That's what I'm saying. Now we have a mandate from the federal government telling you that if you are within the
service area driven,
to connect. So the 300 feet become mute. It doesn't have a value to it.
Okay.
But we need, outside the sphere of influence, you're not going to have enough capacity that require wastewater expansion. So, but that's why policies and procedures is going to be driven from the study to comply with the mandated federal AOC, and yet be reasonable to our constituents and our communities. I cannot see a house within the sewer service area is going to connect. It's going to be very expensive. But a subdivision, with, lots of lots and parcels, that probably would be required. I mean, look what we did with the affordable housing. They run a sewer line almost a mile away from the sewer. So
Erica has comment, and then Dot. Her question, Erica.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Commissioner Perez with District 4. I'm just wanting, I guess, a little bit of a clarification in when you're looking at service areas under this AOC, and you're looking at areas where there is no current assets that the county owns. To me, this is less of a district, like when we were in this conversation, it was not so much of a distance question as a question around the integration of privately owned systems in areas where there are no current county assets. So within this new definition of service areas, are you also looking at the potential of using private utilities that could then benefit areas where county has no assets, such like South Kohala or Keau or Puako, or I'm sorry, HPP, in those areas where there are no current county assets and there's a plethora, some locations of private assets, including private connection as a future mandate for future developers is more of the concept of this recommendation in my perspective.
Yeah, that's part of the study. They identify all the private facilities within the county, and the good one, Erica, is Manolani. Corolla did some analysis for them as part of private connections as well. So any
And then
private
that would be, I'm sorry, Ramsey, just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying, is that within these studies of service area, is this kind of like the county's idea is to build out a package that then communities have to implement? Or are you saying that within this service area study, the county is going to take some role in actually servicing their constituents to be able to connect to private utilities?
well, there's few things the study's doing. The study's identifying, number one, is the sewer service area within the facility, county-owned facilities, such as the 7 waste treatment plant we have, and within their capability of capacity handling of the current system. Then the other one is to look at the second sphere, which requires the expansion of such facility. And then the third sphere, which is allow for decentralized units or IWSs. That's the criteria. So it's layered in that fashion. As far as the private sectors is the big facilities that owned by the private sectors that could handle capacity, and they were willing to take it, because we cannot mandate on the private. Has the current Department of Health requirement is municipality. So Erica, if you recall, when I was in the cesspool group, I was pushing Department of Health from a legislative point of view to change that to allow hookup should be privately or municipality, not only municipality hookup. So hopefully that need legislative change. But once we have the study and the information, that's what we're gonna recommend, and hopefully our elected official, they take on that challenge from a legislative point of view and change it. So we could allow to have that option of private municipality allow for our communities to hook up as well.
So
But
the
I think the
current,
study,
so
that's
the,
why I recommend you guys, I know we had a meeting, but maybe, we almost 75%, 80% complete on that study. And we've been talking about it. If you guys want to make change, you guys better get involved in meetings with the public and this upcoming meeting. But I cannot entertain changes when the consultant already going to finish the product. Participate early in advance. Otherwise, it's going to cost us so much money to do change orders to have the consultant start revising things.
yeah, I'm sorry. I definitely try to participate in as much community outreach as I humanly can. Also, drafts of these documents would be extremely helpful to be able to review and at least see the request to these contractors and specifically what their purpose in developing is. I think that my concern is that what's going to happen within these studies is that the only locations that county is going to be able to play a role in are the outline that you just presented, which is current assets and current utilities that are in existence. While there's huge areas of this island where county doesn't have current utilities. So in that case, what is the best path to be able to, from a county commissioner as well as a county entity through DEM, what is the best way to be able to look at these areas that don't have county infrastructure, to be able to take care of our water sources and actually participate with, the private relationships that could, benefit and secure our resources, I guess is my perception. Because what I'm hearing from you is that this study is going to specifically look at municipalities, county-owned assets. And then
That's
beyond
not what
that,
I said, Erica. I said that's the first sphere. The second sphere is to look how to expand the county asset. The third sphere would be defined by decentralized package unit or IWSs. So we're looking at number one, county assets, number two, new assets that could be constructed as decentralized units, or individual assets that could be as IWS, that is outside the first sphere and possibly
so the
outside
second
the
fear
second.
within, so the second fear with decentralized systems, those would be county-owned decentralized systems.
Yeah, and that's where you guys come in, is about creating, if you recall, I talked about creating the entire county as a sewer district. That way the county would start building these assets. Otherwise, you have to go through the current laws and you have to create sewer assessment district or facility sewer district for every community, and that's going to be obsolete. Imagine trying to get each community vote on the same ideas and get 50+1% to be able to construct it. So the idea is, yes, once we get decentralized areas of recommendation, that's where it's gonna go to the public and you guys and figure out how we're gonna drive policies and procedures. If people want decentralized, they need to push the issue so the county can build decentralized package unit for them. If they don't want decentralized IWSs, then that's going to be individual IWS. So yeah, it's very comprehensive analysis and a study that we're working on. It's not just county asset. We're looking on how environmentally we can protect this island and water resources by maximizing the sewer connections and allowing for better connections under new assets if the people wish to have it.
I have a question.
I wanted to get Dot, did you have comment?
Just a quick comment. Could you restate what the AOC has demanded of the county, and will that be able to, what's your plan, your current plan can cover what they need to cover there? And you mentioned that the next cesspool conversion meeting is in December. Is that correct?
No, I said either September or October. We're working on trying to figure out the right date. And we're working on the consultant to make sure that we lay out the date that could meet everybody's need and also trigger where they at in the process.
And the AOC?
The AOC is it's a public document, as you guys all know. It says any development within the AOC need to connect pretty much said, I don't have it in front of me to read the exact language, but that was the whole concept of if you are within the sphere of influence of that treatment plan, you must connect. We have Kalakea, for example, we have 5 MGD at a max of 8 MGD, and currently we only receiving 1.5 MGD. So we almost 25-30%. So we have still 60% free capacity at Kalakea. So we have to. So we manage it. My direction to the consultant and staff: manage it as you manage your checking account. You need to know how much you have and how much you're going to be able to allow. So number one, we don't overcommit. And number two, we plan it where we make sure that the current people that exist within the sphere of influence, from DHHL to affordable housing to current people, that they have high priority for connection.
So the county will cover what they can cover, and then when you're saying the balance should be done by the private facilities and that sort of thing?
Anything outside the capacity of the plan that would trigger Sphere 2. Sphere 2 is under Department of Health. When you reach 75% of the capacity, you have to start planning about expanding the facility. So Sphere 2 requires the analysis of the expansion of current facilities. So, and we looked at that, and we're trying to figure out the cost of expanding to the second sphere versus decentralized or versus IWSs. So, and if the public, and like I said, that were policies and procedure, that's where you guys need to get involved in reviewing that and advise county council and the department of what options better that's going to trigger the Sphere 2 and Sphere 3. So
Actually, defining the number of feet is going to be dependent on the POTW that's available, and also there's no sense in defining the number of feet then.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hearing, that it's moot.
reason.
It's not a standard number. It
Yeah.
depends on the service area definition.
Yeah, there's no reason to see the old feet because they never had a master plan. Everybody, it's a wild west. So everybody was, that's why we have so missing segments, and we don't have any segments actually. So we change in that. We change in where we're going to have policies and procedures to be able to fit the mandated federal requirement and plan better for the future, and also work with what we have or what had happened in the past so we could correct it. So once you have that master plan, then anybody comes trying to develop or connect, they have to refer back to that master plan so they know if we could allow for the development or not based on capacity and based on availability of collection system. It's like similar to your current water department supply. If they don't have units, they're going to tell you we're not going to have units for you. You cannot develop. Because if you don't have access to water, you cannot develop. If you don't have access to sewer within the sewer service area, you could develop, but you have to comply with Department of Health requirement, which is going to require you to either, if it's a big development, it's going to require them to put their own waste treatment plan. Or if it's the subdivision, they may end up putting decentralized package units. So, but we're going to have a roadmap so we don't fall into the same predicament that we've been in over the last 30 plus years.
Could I go to Dell? Do you still have?
Thank you. And before I forget, a couple of things, maybe we can get the dates of those meetings. And in what Erica said and even Ramsey, the sewer service area, they're looking at relationship with the utilities like the water, because like in Kilkaha and Dishe, there were problems with the water pipes. So they couldn't proceed to complete the sewer installation. So I'm just wondering that maybe we can get a copy of the ASM, that will help us at least like a roadmap, Ramsey, you're mentioning. Let us look at it and determine, out of all these different factors that makes up the ASM, we can look to see how we can better advise you on certain things. Granted, the consultants are there and they're doing what they're supposed to do. But I'm just saying for us, or for me specifically, I kind of need to know. In fact, I do need to know what I'm making recommendations on. So if I know what the ASM states for the county, then it will probably help me better to do my job.
Thank you. Jim, did you have your hand briefly up and down? Do you want? No. Okay, Erica.
Still find the mute button. So with the sphere 2 of the AOC, I think I got okay, let me restart. This topic when we were in the pig meetings, to my recollection, was not necessarily about the distance. I'm going to restate that. It wasn't about the distance. It was about the utilization of private utilities and incorporating private into whatever distance that is. If the distance is mute, then remove the distance, because that actually wasn't the conversation. The conversation was regard of integrating the private into the public language. And if that is better had and dealt with at the ledge, great, that's good for us to know. And if that's the only place that we can tackle that barrier. Because from what I see is phase 1 of an AOC, we're looking at like 10 to 15-year timelines just to update the current infrastructure that the county has. So if phase 2 gets implemented 15 to 20 years later, then where are our resources and what is the state of our coral reefs? What's the state of our drinking water? We're just going to continue what's happening, that's happening right now, until the county has the ability to expand. If phase 1 comes out with just the upkeep of current utilities, then phase 2 is going to be many years down the road, to where if we could integrate current private utilities that are actually there and start to connect communities that are next to these private utilities and mandate that, I think that that's more of the discussion that I remember having at the pig. And it's just in regards of expediting what place we're in right now. We're not in a healthy place for our communities, our environment, our county employees. And to be able to expedite all of this, Peter, or I'm sorry, Ramsey, would that private language be best tackled at the ledge? Is that what I'm hearing from you? Is that there's no place to be able to integrate that within our county, within our county systems?
Yeah, I think the best way that you guys could do submit recommendation for county council or elected official to actually take it to it's a legislation matter. They need to
Great.
revise the current language to allow for private connection as well as municipality.
Excellent. So I think that that is what this recommendation is about. So this recommendation wouldn't be to you as DEM. This recommendation would then actually be shifted to our county council to put pressure on our legislatures to include this private language within the state codes and the state mandate, so we can expedite connections to existing infrastructure.
Yes, that could help drastically.
Excellent. Okay. So I'm now kind of coming full circle. I really appreciate you, Ramsey, for taking the time to walk me through that.
Oh, no problem, Erica. Thank you. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Jim,
Yeah, Jim beats District One. Um, we spent a lot of time on this, and we're still with with the first recommendation. Um, Georgine, how do you want to proceed? Because if we go through all of these recommendations, it'll probably be noon at this rate. So, so one of the thoughts that I had is that we consider returning the recommendations back to a new pig, I guess we'd have to consider, correct?
correct.
You know, for some additional language, because one of the things that's becoming clearer now, we do need to integrate the service areas into the recommendations, I believe, from my perspective. And also look at this language relative to the timelines, because if we're really not requiring connections until what's recommended in the AOC by the time of my understanding, again, by the time of the requirement for cesspool conversion, um, I'll certainly be. My point is that's over 25 years away, and we're just kicking the can down the road, I believe. So maybe we want to consider a few other options. That's just my thoughts.
From what I'm hearing, I guess I would agree that, and there are elements in here of trying to incorporate public services as also rather private services as part of our solutions. That we recast the consideration of what our next step should be in terms of how do we really make it the private-public partnership so that we've got two tracks that are moving the slow, draggy county building better facilities and trying to enable more private enterprise to help get sewering done as opposed to septic systems. Whether we need to go back or whether we can do it today to define what is the action item, what's the ask we would make of the council, and vis-a-vis going to the state legislature if we need to on how can we, I say, enable the private solutions that need to be a part of this. It can't all be county-owned operations. And I don't know if you feel you've got enough to be able to wrap that today, or we bring it back next time for additional discussion and some proposed language. I don't know if you want to form a new pig, or just have individuals come forth with their recommendations and we work through them.
I would like to make a motion or make
Well, we
a
have
edit
a
to the
motion
motion
on
that's
the
on.
table. We need
So
it
I would
to
like
be
to,
withdrawn or voted on. So the motion was around 900 feet instead of 300 feet. Do we?
can I make
forget
a
who made the motion.
modification to that motion?
Oh, it was
What's the
Dot.
proper order to do that?
What's that? What was the question?
Whether we should withdraw the motion or whether you would be inclined to withdraw the 900-foot motion.
Yes, I would. In light of what Ramsey has said, they're putting a defined area is not logical.
So the question is, do we have to vote? No, she can withdraw it and it's withdrawn, right, Sinclair?
I think that's fine, or you can just vote no. Either way.
All in favor of voting no? on that motion. Dell, you got to get back on screen. Anyway, okay, so and consider a new motion. Erica, you have a new motion you'd like to make.
I would like to attempt. It's I feel always like I'm just attempting these every time I try. So, um, I would like to make a motion to recommend to the County of Hawaii County Council, and urge them to include private include a mandate to connect to private sewer lines as within okay, hold on. See, that's why I said to connect to make a motion to recommend to the county council to include private connection within the current mandate of the 300 feet, recognizing that 300 feet is going to go away. Does that make sense? Is that an actual motion?
I'm not sure what we're gaining with the 300 feet.
The 300 feet is it's including the private sewer lines. So it's already okay. So can I back up before I make it so I can process what's in my head? It's literally just including the private sewer lines.
So maybe
So
Erica,
right now,
the best way to state it, just recommend that they modify the current statute within the HRS or HAR. We'll have Peter give the exact language, and just for inclusion of private connection as well as municipalities.
thank you. That is what I'm trying to say. So I recommend to the county council that they take to the legislature to modify the HAR rules to include private connection as well.
So where it says everywhere it says public, it can say private and or public.
Correct.
So we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Georgine.
I don't know. Can you mandate that a private sewer line take on additional customers?
So just a few things. That was the question I had. So it sounds like you want the County Council of Hawaii to recommend to the Hawaii State Legislature to enact a certain enact a statute to require private landowners to connect to private sewer systems.
To modify the current language that's already in there for public lines to be inclusive of private as well.
Has anyone looked at that language that you guys are talking about modifying?
We looked at it during the cesspool group discussion. It's been a while, but I think we could find it within the statute.
Yeah, I think maybe if you are looking at that, Georgine raises a good question. Is that even something that the legislature can do? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But also the mechanism, I mean, the Hawaii County Council, they can pass resolutions, asking the state legislature to do something, but they don't have any authority over the state legislature. So, maybe that's something to look into and be real specific about it. Maybe it's for the future PIG to take a look at that statute and talk to the people, whether or not that's even something that's legally doable. I would suggest looking into that further before making a recommendation to our Hawaii County Council to do something. My thoughts on that.
I also have a question, and you worked on it forever on the cesspool conversion plan, whether that was any of the recommendations for legislative bills? I mean, I know you wanted to include private as well as public in some of those, whether there's one to glom on to.
I can review that and look back through it. We very much encouraged and recommended, in order to expedite the timeline, to use private utilities as a partnership. I can look through that though right now, Georgine, actually.
Okay, if you can come up with it that fast. The other, looking at the other recommendations for the pig, was a little bit more around money, perhaps the closest one in terms of private versus public, county doing everything versus private was number 2 on your recommendation list, which was to ask the county to conduct formal legal review. And here, Sinclair, you can tell us how we word that one, of the Kono decision, outlining when we can and cannot defer or let the private sector take on public sewer or sewer treatment systems, or sewer works, I guess is the term of art that's used, the connections, the pumps, the treatment plant.
The OTWs.
Well, what we're saying, the P, what in the way of Kono decision is going to get in the way of allowing P to mean private? Jim, did you have something pertinent here?
Yeah, Dot just mentioned that we have a motion on the floor, I believe, or maybe we
I
have a
didn't
motion on the
hear
floor.
it get
Real clear.
completed yet.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I guess we don't have a motion. Good.
So we're in discussion mode
I
right now.
didn't have enough language, so I'm sorry. I'll eat my words.
And
Sinclair, yes.
so for Erica's question earlier, I can talk to Erica offline and see, kind of dig in a little bit more specifically as to that statute that she was discussing and, the authority and whether, the state can even require that, and then what would be the mechanism, who would be best to advise DEM or our county council or et cetera. I can work with Erica offline on that. For this, for the number 2 that you guys are discussing, it sounds like the interest is that you want the county to pursue the parameters of private sector partnerships with the county regarding wastewater projects. So I think that's something that you guys could recommend to DEM for them to look into. I'm not sure that it's this body's, I guess, mandate to be looking into the legal requirements regarding real specific administrative issues such as personnel. I'm not.
The issue, I think, if I may, on behalf of the PIG group, oftentimes the response to why can't we fill in the blank, private public partnership, the response is the Kono decision says we can't. If the county has ever even thought of providing a service, then it has to be done by county employees, and you cannot allow for private businesses to provide that service. Really? And specifically in the arena of wastewater treatment.
Yeah, so I mean, CONO stands for the general proposition, right? That once the county is doing something, it cannot privatize it. So, if the county is, yeah, so it's very complex and convoluted, but in a nutshell, once the county takes on a duty, it has to continue doing that. It can't contract that out to a private entity to then do it, because then it's contracting out what are civil service jobs. There are exceptions in the Hawaii Revised Statute that provide exceptions to this Kono decision. And so I guess, and that's kind of why, okay, so you're saying, okay, you advise DEM, why don't you hire somebody to do this, because you don't have employees to do it, right? And DEM's like, we can't hire a private entity to do this because we have employee positions that are supposed to be doing it, but we don't have the employees. Is that the conundrum that's happening?
Basically, and there's also the issue of the county has provided 7 facilities. And is that what the service is, defined by the existing service areas, even if they're kind of mushily defined? And it hasn't provided it to the vast majority of the county by area. It's provided it in certain areas to certain numbers of people. So is the box the act of treating and collecting sewage in the universe, or can we narrow it down? How specific a service
Yeah,
has
so
the county claimed in the
yeah, I
original
understand.
wastewater treatment?
I understand what you're saying. So it's like historic and customarily done by the county. So like it's historic and so there's 6. You talking about waste or wastewater?
Wastewater.
Okay, 6 wastewater treatment facilities. Can the county go and contract out somebody to run an 8th wastewater facility? And
Or 10 different package system facilities, which the
package
county's
system,
never done.
package system run by somebody else or run by the county?
Run by somebody else.
Yeah, so that would be a question of Kono and the parameters of it. So I mean, it's basically it would be HR, the Hawaii, not Hawaii, the Human Resources Department, Corporation Council, deciding the limits of that. So I guess you could ask DEM to take a look at the legal authority of the county to enter into private public partnerships. And that would involve, an analysis of Kono.
If I could say something?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, from what I understand, that Kona decision, that grievance, or that was filed by the solid waste. And that was because, like it was said, if it's historically and customarily performed by county workers, then they cannot privatize, or they can, but they have to use county workers to do that job. Just like with the hauling of the solid waste, they're renting the trucks, but from what I understand, it's the county drivers that are doing, driving the trucks, or something to that. I suppose, is that correct?
Not sure what those facts are, but yeah, I mean, it would be a detailed legal analysis with DEM, Corporation Council, HR, the unions. So I think, you guys can recommend that they pursue those avenues. I think, as this body is an advisory body, you can recommend things in that sense. So I think, it's fine to
Okay, so I
recommend.
think we could build, if somebody else would like to do that, we could build a motion around number 2, recommendation from the PIG on recommending that DEM ask for the words in number 2. Anybody? From the PIG?
Is that regarding the Kona decision? Because that went to the Supreme Court? Yeah, can we make a motion to look into that
Yes.
further?
Just FYI, I mean, DM is not a legal entity, so my recommendation, and you guys have your own counsel as an EMC, you may need to refer to your counsel.
Sorry, Ramsey. So
For legal finding, because DM is not legal department. So if you guys ask me to look into the Kuna decision from a legal perspective, as might as well ask your EMC counsel to give you that finding.
I clarify something about, kind of the structure of how the county works. So you guys can ask DEM to look into establishing private sector partnerships regarding County of Hawaii wastewater projects. DEM has an attorney. DEM, they don't have to take you guys' recommendation. It's a recommendation, something for them to consider. You can ask them about it. Ramsey, and this is my understanding, he's the director of DEM, right? So he can take that recommendation or not. If he wants to take that recommendation, that kind of goes into their operations, and then that would be an internal process. Ramsey, in order to do a big project like that, there's a lot of internal county agencies that would be involved. I mean, number one, it would be Ramsey discussing with his legal advisor, hey, the DEM wants me to look into a public-private sector partnership. And then that attorney would look into it. And if that attorney's like, oh, no, cannot, then it's done. If that attorney's like, maybe there's something that maybe here's an avenue that could possibly work. If it's a gray area, that would be in consultation with our boss, Betsy Strand. She makes the call when something's gray, but that would be an internal DEM thing to look into whether Ramsey wants to or not.
So then I have
It wouldn't be me advising. I advise this commission on their rules and their authority and Robert's rules and procedure and all that stuff, but I don't advise DEM or human resources, and I don't have the ultimate call on the parameters of Kono. So that's just to clarify that.
Oh, thank you. So I have a question. But the DEM has gone into partnerships with private companies, right?
I think they've contracted, Ramsey, correct me if I'm wrong, but county agencies contract with private entities all the time for services, whether it's goods, services. So I don't know that hypothetical that you mentioned, if they're, procuring vehicles, whether it's rental or acquisition.
I think it was.
You said it perfectly. Any public services that has been done historically and customarily in the past cannot be contracted out. So if there's a public servant that provide that service, you cannot contract, privatize that, or ask for a contractor to come augment that service or provide the service. So there's no augmentation or
Sorry, Ramsey, to interrupt you on that one. There are exceptions to that under 76-70 something HRS, and that is something that DEM could look into with HR and finance and its own attorney to see whether or not any of those exceptions apply to whatever specific issue there is. Sorry, Ramsey.
No, we did look at it. Believe me, Betsy came up with a department countywide findings, and she shared it during the cabinet meeting. It's very, very clear. The threshold is very clear to define it. So if a good example, currently we don't have R1 done by public servants. So the R1 could be privatized if there is a private entity willing to take it, because we don't produce it yet. But once we start producing it, then we cannot privatize it. So, and that's where the balance is. The opportunities is you can private.
And so,
we
Ramsey,
can
can I?
enter into a contract with private as long as we're not doing it currently.
Yeah, and Ramsey, just for my own clarification, when you say privatize, you mean the county paying somebody to do something?
Right, you put it out as a contract, either RFP, and you just solicit private entity to come build the R1 facility and take the water and run it and make money out of it on their own. Because we're not in the business of R1 currently. So that's an example that you could, you know, put it out as an RFP and people could come and build the facility and run it, what have you. Pooka is a good example. Manalani is a private facility. Betsy and finance determined that they could connect to their facility because it's to the benefit of the public as a whole, because we don't own the facility, private entity own it. So Pooka community could connect to it because it's a private project. And also we could fund it under facility community sewer district. So it could be funded through, I think, Chapter 32, through the county. But once they build it, the county will put bonds out there, pay for it, and then they divvy up the cost to the property owners. So it become reimbursable through your property tax bill, but that will be going toward the FCD. And they determined that is acceptable. I know it took us 3 years to get there, but we just had a meeting with the community and they were informed that the county could create the FCD. And once they finish building that collection, because they only build in the collection, and once they build the collection, it's their system, but it could be bonded through the county because the constituents will pay it back. That's how I understood it.
So that's one example of, I guess, a public-private partnership, Ramsey. You're saying that basically the county could finance infrastructure.
It's a site specific, yes. It has, like you said, it has to be approved by finance, Betsy, and probably Department of Human Resource, the 3 entities.
Well, to take it back here to EMC and what we can do and what kind of motion recommendation we want to make. Maybe the issue is that we recommend that DEM work every process they've got to not allow Kono to get in the way of providing community treatment as opposed to putting up with septic. And then it's work every angle you've got. And you know, as a commission, we refuse to believe that that's an impossible barrier. So fight it. I don't know if that's a motion or a statement of the feeling of the commission, if that's true.
Can I chime in? I had a couple of things. Is one, I found the recommendation from the Cesspool Conversion Working Group to include within county planning the private sector. So I copied and pasted that in the chat. In regards to the Kono decision, I just had a couple of questions. We've been as wearing a different hat of Coral Reef Alliance. Jim and I equally have both worked within that community for over 10 years, trying to address the cesspools that are in that area. the Kono decision and two different administrations had come up as barriers to be able to move that community forward in actually connecting them either to their own little private package plant or even the Manalani with assistance from the county. So the Kono decision, I do from personal experience have been given numerous times that the Kono decision has blocked efforts in moving not only Puuko forward, but even the south end of Ali'i Drive near Kahalu'u and those efforts. So I very much support some kind of legal review for even what EPA has recommended to us of the Kono decision, specifically around wastewater and being a barrier to wastewater movement forward. I did have a quick question to Ramsey, and thank you for kind of displaying out what's happening with the Chapter 32 and CFD component for Puuko. So one additional kind of question that would also lead back into Kono is that given, yes, the county can finance it through the CFD, would then the county be able to do a build and gift scenario of then managing the O&M of that infrastructure into the future while it went to the private treatment plant? Because I think that was the additional question in regards to both Puuko as well as the south end of Ali'i Drive, is in the instance that community is able and willing to step up to and put forth the effort to get the infrastructure in and again expedite things so that the county doesn't have to shoulder the actual infrastructure development. But then once infrastructure is in, then is county able to take on the existing operation and maintenance into the future of that infrastructure?
Yeah, no, that is a good question, Erica, and that has been addressed as well. So let's use Puuka, for example, because it's a low pressure system. The county never maintained a low pressure system. So that also could go to Manalani if they opt to take it. That way they only could bill the community one invoice. Otherwise, if the county take the O&M, then we're going to introduce a new function, then it become public servant function, and then we have to set the O&M fees for that community to be able to bill them for the O&M. So they aware of these options, and also they entertain looking at privately maintain it within their home association. So
Okay,
they
so
have three options to select from, because it's a new system the county never done before. It wasn't basic, customarily and basically historically done by the county employees.
So I'm sorry, is that a yes, the county is able to then take on the O&M into the future?
I mean, if the community requests from the county to take the O&M, an agreement with the community would be drawn, memorandum of agreement with the community will be drawn, because they're going to be subject to the same sewer rate as everybody else is. Plus, they're going to get another invoice from Manalani for the treatment. So yeah, I mean, but the logistic and agreement need to be established between the three entities, the private, the county, and the association, to make sure they're clear on roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, that was part of Barbara's testimony, is to be able to secure that agreement in order to have that in order for the community to be able to basically take on their end of it, which is the Chapter 32. So then that would again be applicable to other communities like the south end of Ali'i Drive, in the same instance if there was an entity that would then be able to sewer the south end of Ali'i Drive and take it to a private treatment plant rather than to the Kealakekee treatment plant, then that would also be something that then the county would be able to do a build and gift of and then take care of that utility into the future of the collection, not the utility, I'm sorry.
Right, and we have also been talking to Hawaii Water as well. So we being, like I mentioned earlier, I'm glad you shared that on the chat. So on the chat, because, you know, number one says require the county to do comprehensive integrated wastewater management plan. That's what we're working on, guys. That's why we're about 75% complete on it. So, and that's the reason we're doing what we're doing, and we been knocking at private entities such Hawaii Water, American Water, to see to what extent. We even reached out to the airport on the Kona side to see if their treatment plant could potentially be expanded to include some of the communities, because they outside the sphere of Kealakekee waste treatment plant.
That's
So
great.
that's what the
Can we
integrated
see a
wastewater
draft of
management
that
plan
70?
is doing. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Sorry. Can we, I did request a draft of the report because I think that that would then, I mean, that would have even, I think, helped the PIG arrive and clarify and tighten up these recommendations, because this is a very, very good conversation for me. And I
Well,
do
remember,
think
this
that
is the same report we had the first meeting with the public on. And that's where
I just would love to see the report and not just hear it through presentations of meetings. I
Those
very
are
much,
pretty high
I don't know
level
to what
to talk
extent
about those public meetings. And I think
just to
what
let you
I'm
know, because
hearing
I don't
is
want to
that
end up, Georgiana, I'm sorry. I don't want to have reports out there with different copies and drafts, because once we need to make sure whatever we put out, it's at least the final draft. I'm not going to have multiple reports, but our staff could do a presentation. I mean, you guys could access the prior public meeting and see what the consultant had presented. It's
I've
online.
done that, Peter. I've done that, Ramsey, and I still feel the need to actually see the draft report. So when I'm told to
Well,
give
it's not yet. It's like I
recommendations,
said, it's in the process of being compiled for the next meeting. So, but it's
I
not.
guarantee it'll be on the next meeting's agenda. And to get the report, as a former consultant, I definitely agree with the importance of maintaining control over drafts, and that they have to be something that you're willing to stand behind as not a bunch of garbage. So great, give us the report when you can. What I'm hearing back to the recommendations that were made is you are looking at public-private. If you run into something that says by legislation, you cannot touch something, and if it was part of the recommendation, if you guys have looked through the chat, Erica had posted the language that was in the cesspool conversion work group to provide public and private. If that still needs to be pushed, then I think what the motion before number one was push it. And I think it's fine for Erica to go back and just come up with what specifically would we send to council that we would need to do. The other on the Kono, you're saying you are fighting Kono, you are getting concessions on what is possible to do with the public. And we will support that because we don't like the answer that Kono's in the way. And if we can't hire a county person, we can't even hire enough county people to manage what we've got, much less future plans. Then that just says, okay, as EMC, we support you pushing the envelope on Kono. We've got to leverage every facility we possibly can. The biggest issue, though, right now is I've been asked for a bio break, and I've think we probably deserve it. So think about if you want to come back and you've got a motion to make. Right now, we're motionless. Got a couple concepts that maybe we could, maybe they're not necessary, or maybe they need too much work offline to come back with something. And it would have to be individual, or maybe two of you from Sunshine Act can get together and come up with some proposed language for a September meeting. But I think we're ready to move, unless you come up with brilliant ideas in the you-know-where in 5 minutes, come back and we can consider
Motion.
more. I don't even know how I raised my hand in the first place. I didn't think I did it. Anyway, I raised my real hand. So is that okay, guys? We do 5?
Fine.
Thank you. Stop recording. All right, we are back in session. Del, you had a question?
Yeah, so under number 2, with the Kona decision being, like we've said, a detriment to trying to proceed. So where is there a list of all the different areas where the DEM has needed to go, but in their mind, the Kona decision has stopped them from doing it? Is there a list of projects that they wanted to have done, but they didn't because of the Kona decision? Is it such a thing?
Ramsey, I would doubt very much whether it's been itemized like that. And I guess
Because
that
I guess it seems that before it's even entertained, we've got that roadblock with the Kona decision. So I'm just saying that there must be a lot of projects that could have been at least attempted or suggested, but it didn't go further than that because the Kona decision is holding it up, or the lack of understanding what the Kona decision.
maybe one way to deal with this relative to wastewater is to ask DEM to identify as a appendix, maybe to the Corolla integrated wastewater management plan, where they have identified impediments.
Okay, that sounds good.
Is that fair? That's something DEM would do, not the contractor? Is Ramsey back on as I'm giving him assignments? Would that help people? Is for them just to enumerate as parts that they're working on this integrated wastewater management plan. It's got
It would
all
help
sorts
me.
of meat to it. And the
Yeah.
thing we're worried about is Kono is cutting off some options, or perceived to be cutting off some options. So put that in some sort of attachment that we can see.
Because yeah, that'll work, because that will help us even with the ASM. You know,
So is Ramsey on?
another topic?
Is Chris Barber on? Can you comment about doing that?
So as
Dorothy, what is that? Is it watching me? I'm putting my thumb up. Oh,
That
this
way.
magic. This is my daughter's computer. Who knows what she's got to do?
okay, so in response to that question, as far as identifying projects where the Kono decision has challenged from an implementation standpoint, so as the cesspool conversion plan is structured, we're going to be looking at, you know, what do we need to do to convert every cesspool by 2050? And we've kind of broken it up, like Ramsey has said, into different spheres. So I'm not quite sure. I can work with our consultant to, you know, list out those the challenges, but I'm not sure. I think we would need to list out the challenges rather than project by project. Because I think we would group, right? If we're going to propose that say that a county developed facility is privately operated through an operational, some type of an operational agreement. Um, I don't think at this point in time that we've looked that far. We're mainly putting the cesspools into a group that says, okay, these are, these will be grouped into the sphere of an IWS, so an on-site treatment system. If those folks want to put together a private treatment facility that fits their needs, that is an option. But at this point in time, there is no, county facility that would facilitate sewerage of those people.
No, I understand what they're looking at. I'm just wondering if there's more kind of commentary from DEM that has said, these are some of the barriers that are struggling with, Kono being one of them. And so you've already defined some parameters on what the consultant can look and deal with, and they don't know
Sure.
Kono from a hole in the ground, which is accessible.
Yeah.
And if there's another, sidebar kind of commentary that could be provided more informally by
Sure.
DEM.
Yeah, we can list out the challenges that we face with, the task of providing, all of our, 49,000 cesspools with alternatives to close. So that's something that we can accommodate.
Okay. Do we need to make that a formal request, or is this enough? It'll be in the minutes.
It'll be in the minutes, so I'll toss it over to our engineer that's heading up that study. So,
Okay.
well, managing the day-to-day of that study. So,
I understand. Thank you, Chris.
sure.
So Dorothy, your name that's on here on the Zoom shows hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. Isn't the Kono decision designed to ensure that jobs are not taken by off, off island people? And wasn't there a caveat in the cesspool conversion plan that actually trained people in doing the operation and maintenance of these type of plants? And can there be sort of a hybrid situation in which the infrastructure is actually operated and maintained by those trainees? Is that a question for Chris or for Ramsey? Or is that
I can answer from a cesspool conversion working group member that yes, workforce development was a huge section of the recommendations that were put forth to the legislature, as well as building capacity within the state DOH as well as county DEM.
And can I also add to that now, as far as workforce development, the county does do some various outreach here and there as we get time and capacity. But internal workforce development, we have a training program for our operators. So I would group that into two. Internal within the county, we're continually developing our workforce and training them on new technologies as facilities get fixed, upgraded, repaired. And then also there's an external component which I think DEM is putting forth some additional effort to develop some pathways to enable that to happen as well.
So Chris, thank you. It's good to hear that you are developing your employees and you're continually developing them. So then I have to ask, how often is that done? I mean, currently, because there are operators I know that need to be trained that are not being trained, so that it can help with the operations at the wastewater plants. So is that they're actively being trained from within?
So currently, the way that it works is we have a contract with UH, and um, there's a couple of trainers that come on island, and they do training for east side and west side. So what I push my supervisors to do is set up monthly or every other month trainings, work with their staff to understand what they need for their continuing education as far as to satisfy their licensing requirements, to keep everything updated, and then go from there. So, I let my supervisors drive that. We've been having trainings on the west side and on the east side. So like Alan is saying within our comments, they are for CEUs. And then we also do some offsite training via conferences. We sent our collection systems group to um, a training earlier, I think this year, for um, in situ, like CIPP type repairs. So that's what we've been currently doing internally.
I'm gonna have to call timeout on this. We're way behind on the agenda.
Sure.
And that's really not one of the focus areas that we have. If I may, you can follow up maybe separately if you want to, Dell. I just want to go back to the recommendations that were made by the PIG. And I think we've said, number one, that Erica was going to come back with maybe some more specific language. And you've got some, went back and looked, that would deal with public-private partnerships. If it says under the private, the Kono, we're gonna have Chris see about getting maybe some call out comments on the side of the integrated wastewater plan. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Are there some motions you would like to make around those? I don't know if you want to put those back up, Peter.
I think that I can make a recommendation or a motion. I'm gonna try it one more time.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to recommend that DEM and County Council pursue legislative amendments in consultation with their attorneys to be able to include private connection.
Okay. Did you get that, Peter?
Yes, he says yes.
I think, Erica, rather than private connection, maybe connecting to privately owned facility, that clarifies it better. Because a private
Apologies.
connection, sorry.
Could even be IWS or something like that.
Legislative amendment
Do I have to restate that, or can we just modify what Ramsey said?
So it's to include connecting to private sewer works.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you asking if they look into making that a requirement?
I'm so sorry. You broke up on my end. I didn't quite hear that question.
Sorry, this is Sinclair. Just for clarification, were you asking that they pursue that as a requirement or as an option?
As a requirement.
Okay, so
So
I
the
think
recommendation is that DEM, along with county council, pursue legislative amendments to require connection to private wastewater facilities.
public facilities are not available.
Yes.
To private facilities where public facilities inaccessible.
Can you restate the motion, Peter?
Wish you could see my handwriting. DM and county is recommended to pursue legislative amendments to require connection to private sewer works when public facilities are not available.
Is that what you like, Erica? We have a second?
Second.
Second from Dell. More discussion? I think that captures what we were interested.
This is Commissioner McIntosh. I know I missed 2 hours of discussion, but I thought the county had already or was looking into this, and they'd already they had questions that they hadn't answered yet. So aren't we just asking them to do something they've already done?
We think there may be some ambiguity, if not gaps, in the current legislation at the state level. And that it needs to be worked on.
1162 wastewater system says, I think it was revised July 1st, 2014. Any new building capable of generating wastewater shall be connected to a wastewater system, shall connect to public sewer. So what we need to do is shall connect to public or private sewer. But that's good motion that Erica has proposed, because eventually legislatively we may need to, the Department of Health acknowledged that. Sina was running that division at that time. She retired, but it's doable. It's a matter of just having one of the state representative, I guess, submit and propose that addition or change. But I mean, the way that Erica proposed it, it's perfectly fine, because that's what's going to drive our policies and procedures after the integrated wastewater management plan is complete. Because I remember I mentioned it multiple times. Once that document is complete, it's going to trigger policies and procedures and new laws to be able to comply with the federally mandated AOC that we have. And yeah, set this county for a better horizon when it comes to managing our wastewater and protecting our shoreline and groundwater.
So I think it encompasses more than just a single amendment. It's looking at where there needs to be amendments. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty in this motion. Is that okay, Lee?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? Let's take a vote. How many support the discussion? Say aye. Don't raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, Laura.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Yay, we passed a motion. Okay. Moving to number 3. I don't know, you gonna put that up again? Or do we want to skip and come back at the end of the month or in September? Excuse me. Jim,
I think I would, at this point in the consideration of time, like to suggest that we take the remaining recommendations and return it to the PIG for clarification on motions. If that
we
requires
cannot return it to
initiating,
the pig because there is no pig.
right, so otherwise, I suggest initiating a new PIG to do so.
If we form a new pig, it's so convoluted.
Why don't we just put it off until next meeting?
That's fine too.
I mean, I would recommend
did-
that people individually look at some motions that they could bring to next meeting.
I'm good with
Looking
that.
at this set of things, rather than it be a pig
Whatever's
conversation.
required, I think that would be better use of time.
Okay, do some homework, guys. If any of 3 through 6 are your favorite pieces, come up with some language and bring it to the next meeting. Okay?
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question on that? I'm all for moving on because I don't want to eat up like the whole entire meeting just on this. But this conversation was extremely helpful. I think that it did actually result in a great outcome. Is there anything that, like, I'm going to go back to, what Chair is requesting is that if we do just postpone, is there anything immediately regarding 3 through 6 that somebody either has a question on or a clarifying comment to be able to guide kind of the next meeting so we actually come up with some recommendations. I don't want to like utilize everybody's time, but the discussion is super helpful.
No, you're good.
Not sure who's talking. I would say number 4, which says that we support the code changes from DEM. We haven't seen the final code changes, so that one's definitely deferrable.
Is there any update that Ramsey or his team could maybe provide in regards to the technical assistance that is being utilized from EPA currently, either under the AOC, or just do you folks feel that it could be beneficial even outside of the existing AOC, but under this new EPA technical assistant program and the information that was shared in this bottom table, is there value in engaging this assistance program for our county, like for a county-wide technical guidance, even outside of the AOC?
That question for us?
Yeah,
Erica?
have you asked anybody?
Yeah.
Are you getting ready to ask anybody to help?
Yeah, we always ask EPA for technical assistance. They provided it when we were doing the next gen, and they just provided it to help us set priorities as we were negotiating the AOC. So, Kelly, I think are we asking for more? I don't know if Kelly is on the line, but yeah,
I'm here.
we always try to chase that. I know Chris is working on something as well.
Yeah, I don't have anything right now with technical assistance from the EPA. However, we are working on a few grants to provide us with funds to do our public education and outreach for the integrated wastewater master plan. So that will provide us with a budget so we can do presentations and advertisements and flyers, all those types of things.
Yeah, because Erica, I don't know if you're aware of that Closing America wastewater access gaps funding. And that's where they also provide technical assistance through that grant. My understanding, there's a lot of money in there.
Okay. Yeah, this is a
EPA
this is a free program that the county could gain support from and not have to pay for it in regards to planning and assessment, project development, partnership and engagement, inventive funding and financing, and management support. So I was just wondering if you were already accessing that, just so I'm prepared for next meeting to come in with more recommendations.
Yeah, please, any recommendation that you guys have, shoot it to Kelly, Brenda. Brenda's, as you all know, she used to be the director for USDA. So she have access to things that we may not, but yeah, if you could shoot an email to Brenda, Kelly, and CC me as well, because I know we've been talking about that closing America wastewater access gap, and my understanding EPA have ERG as the consultant that they trying to access the state revolving fund. And I think Chris may be working with them trying to define projects or where we may need their assistance. Keikaha's
Yeah, I think
probably,
Michael and Barry are a part of this EPA
yeah,
the
I
new
mean,
technical
Chris
assistant
allowed
program.
it. I think Keikaha, we recommended Keikaha as one of the project that as a technical assistant may be needed there. So yeah, but if you guys have the more the merrier, right? So if you guys know of funding that we could access fast and free of any obligation, would love to put our hand around it.
Okay, moving on. We deferred from last time. I don't know how much you've got to give us this time on I&I for Hilo wastewater treatment plant. Did wastewater division have anything specifically pulled together for presentation on that topic? Or would you like me to defer to September again?
Can we defer and to another meeting where we have a bit more time?
Okay. Would you like that, Laura? This is your topic. So we could really give it some more time. Is Laura even there? Okay. Silence means deferred.
So
Okay.
could you please, Georgianne, what is that exactly asking Chris or the commission asking Chris to provide? So I'm aware of exactly what is the actual request.
It was coming from Laura and she doesn't appear to be on the call at the moment.
Chris, do you know exactly what you've been asked for?
I'll ask her to talk to you specifically.
Yeah, if she could shoot us an email of exactly what is the request so we could provide that information.
Okay.
Yeah, Ramsey, she requested, you know, what are our efforts on, you know, addressing I&I. So specifically, you know, what are the efforts with respect to in situ CIPP, you know, repairs. And so, you know, I think that begs, you know, a bit of discussion with some figures and different things. So I was requesting to defer.
Yeah, just make sure it's consistent with what you guys submitted to EPA as well, because I thought that was also a request within the AOC. So I just want to make sure that you guys stay consistent with the same information.
Aloha, Chair. I'm
Understood.
Thanks,
present.
Laura.
Hi,
Jump
sorry,
in if there's some more guidance you can give them.
Yeah, no, that's good. But also, if there was information provided to EPA, can we have access to that so that we're aware if you know, I understand there's a consistency thing that's being requested, but what was provided to EPA? Are we able to access that as commissioners? And the request was from last round, where are we at with regard to dealing with that issue of I&I? Multiple public meetings, we've heard that there is intrusions, therefore extrusion, and especially along our coastlines where we have high tides. Again, how is the department addressing that critical need, especially in regards to extrusion?
Intrusion.
Well, intrusion, sorry, I'm responding to Dell, but Dot, but where there's intrusion, there's also extrusion.
Okay, well, and separately, if you could directly talk with Chris, I guess, or send an email.
Okay,
what you'd like to see.
Chair, I can make more specifics, that's for sure. We've had this discussion on multiple meetings. It's been a request from the public as well as multiple commissioners. I know I have been driving it, but I think it's important, since it has been brought up by the public in multiple meetings, both community meetings as well as this commission meeting, that it gets addressed publicly.
Okay.
Right, and I think Chris is, like I said, EBA required from us to rank our collection system based on certain rating and televising the entire system, analyzing it. So we just want to make sure we don't get ahead of us as we submit the same information to the public as required by EPA. So I don't know, Chris, where your staff at on assessing the collection system, but that was one of the requirements within the AOC. So just to let you know that, Laura, it's you have to run the camera, you have to analyze the collection system and rank it based on the pipe's conditions and what have you. So, and that's step number one. So you could know exactly what you're dealing with, and then you propose implementation plan. So that is part of the process within the current AOC. Am I right, Chris, or did I misspoke?
No, yeah, that's correct. So per the AOC, the collection system does need to be fully assessed within the 5-year within a 5-year period. So we have goals in which our our sewer collection system staff understand, hey, we need to inspect certain amount of length of pipe, and that is one aspect of it. But yes, we do have more immediate needs in which we are taking care of, and working to address. So.
And any document that goes to EPA, it's public document, so you guys could access it on EPA website as well.
Okay, so we'll get a more explicit presentation at our next meeting. Number 3 was just to offer you the opportunity, if you guys had a chance to look through the presentation materials, summaries of meetings that were being held on the functional equivalent discharge, where you got to have an MPDS for everything, and wanted to have some questions, comments going to Ramsey. I don't know if you've had another meeting of that work group since we last met or not. Ramsey?
Yeah, we did have a meeting, but for some reason they mentioned in the meeting that that meeting is to be confidential till they get things out, I guess. But
Okay,
I guess there's a lot of pressure under the state to come up with something, so we'll see.
Dot, did you have a question?
But ironically, you could go to their website. I thought they posted the presentation, so I don't know. I think they may post the slides. So it beats me. So I guess I don't know.
Okay. Dot, did you have a question?
Yes, I
relative to
do.
this, or-
I reviewed the workshops online, and there was supposed to be another one on Monday, I assume. And I was wondering if we could get a synopsis of that. And I was also wondering if I could also all we're getting is the slides, and I would like to, also know about the question and answers and that sort of thing from the MPS stuff. And yeah, where are we as far as addressing the NPDS? Are we going to do dye studies? I guess that's too broad a question for now, but yes, please keep us informed about the NPDS process. Thank you.
I'll put it on the agenda for next time too, just in case there's an update that would help us. I also encourage, I did myself, send in your comments directly to Ramsey. Just as we were doing with the accessible conversion group, got thoughts. He's pretty open to at least reading his email. Speaking of email, going to the reports and correspondence, item 6, the sustainability solid waste stuff, we're putzing along. All those people volunteered to do follow-up, but I haven't raised their hands again. So we're still recruiting people to do some work. Couple of independent projects that are moving forward. But hopefully I'll have something more to say next time. We are trying to work 3 different areas. The legislation that we recommended for banning recyclables. I had a meeting with Craig and Alex about their thoughts on it, and I haven't done much as I've been traveling. There's a project going on related to the World Sprints, is that what it's called? The rowing hoo-ha in Hilo to get compostables, and looking at how we can work on that. And then not much movement on the resource recovery parks, although we keep exploring different grant opportunities for that. Director's report. Anything pressing? Oh no, I've punched a different button. It's horrible working at somebody else's desk, Shalise had to disappear, and she put a summary of the work being done. I gotta find it on the operational study for solid waste. She says that draft report was submitted to DEM on the 22nd. They are our next step is for DEM to review their draft and sit down with DEM and the consultant on revisions to make on the draft. And they hope to have something into September. They're going to meet on the final report. Hopefully we will get look at it before it's a final report, so that we can offer comments from EMC. Certainly we will comment before or contingent, the same time, whatever that word is, as it goes to council. The report will have what the report has in it.
So Georgine, excuse me. So because they already received the draft,
This is DEM has received a draft.
yeah, is it possible for us to see the copy of the draft?
It's the first whack, and I do not believe I'm speaking on your behalf, Ramsey, and I don't know who else may be online to talk about it, that I'm not sure
I
it's
haven't seen
ready
it, but
for
I
them
need
to
to
say.
talk to, I think Peter mentioned it to me and he gave me a copy. I have not really even opened it yet, but yeah, I think if it's good enough draft, definitely I want you guys to give me input before it become final document. So I definitely want you guys to look at it because you guys, comments are greatly appreciated and very important to have at this stage. So let me check with Chili's. She's gone, I guess you said, Georgianne. Chili's is.
Yeah, in the chat, she said she had another meeting she had to run off to. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
let me
as soon as you
check with
guys feel
her.
comfortable releasing it, we will take it as fast as you'll give it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
at least this is not 75% of the draft. This is actually, it's a draft of the entire document. The other
I
one,
just
I won't share it because it's still at 75% stage of the
so
draft.
thank you. But I just think it's important for us during the whole process to know what is happening, because even so, when it started with the feedback that they required, it's no different. It's like whatever feedback they got, they're incorporating in the plan, and maybe it's just good practice to keep us updated on the progress so that we can catch anything now or comment or suggest any recommendations now before it gets to 90% and then 100%. And it may not be good enough for you to pass it on to us, but I would like to see it. I would like to see what they've come up so far because I do have questions and I just want to make sure it's being addressed. Thank you.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I have not. Let me talk to her and let me assess what was submitted first.
Because isn't
But
it
if
going out
it's,
to January now? I mean, from October to January. Is that what I heard? The final draft? It's been extended.
it depends how long it's gonna take us to get back with them. I guess, for the sake of transparency, like I said from day one, our
Yes.
intent to always be transparent. And the more brain I get to get involved, the better the results. So there's no reason for any of us to take a document and make it solo document. It doesn't benefit anybody. That's the reason we have public meetings. That's the reason we have you guys to review documents. That's why I always come back to you guys with any comment, recommendation. So yes, I agree with you, Dale. This particular draft.
What she says in the chat is the goal is to have all comments, which should include EMC, to E2 element environmental by September 23rd to meet the
So she
final
did include
recorded
you then.
submission at October 31. So October
She did
31 is
include.
supposed to be the final submission.
Yeah, so she did include you guys for the review. So if she did, then I don't need to ask her. Just maybe Peter could share the draft with you guys. Because to me, this is going to convert to a final. So it seemed like they already prepared it complete. So they still, waiting on comments, modification, and what have you. So Dell, that answers your question. And Harry, what Georgianne just said is seemed like it intended to go to you guys.
So
Okay,
anyway,
yeah,
the final report is still scheduled apparently for October 31. So not January.
And it
okay.
may change. It depends if you guys got too much comments, too much changes, but let's start with first having you guys look at it.
Yeah, that's why it's important to see it as it's being worked on. So we don't have to extend it until next year.
But
Okay.
just for you, Del, I know initially you said the report for closing facilities. I don't know
Oh,
where
yeah.
you got the comments at closing facility. The report does not, the report looks at current operation and analysis for diversions, for recycling. So it has nothing to do with the closing facilities. The closing
You mean,
facilities was part of the integrated solid waste management plan that was submitted in 2019.
right.
I
And
just
so
want
the
to make sure that's
recommendation,
clear.
and I guess if I could remember, that was also discussed with, what's that, the SW? Who's
The
that?
Solid Waste
Integrated
Advisory
waste.
Committee was the one that
Yeah,
put together the Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan. And
right.
the contractor for that plan had offered that as an example of what could be done. It was not a recommendation, formal recommendation, one of the 80 plus that was made for the plan. It was a consideration. So there's
Okay, that was
background
for the,
information on it.
that was for the 10 proposed listed solid waste stations. Is that the one we're talking about?
It was one of
Is
the
that's the one,
options
Ramsey?
presented in the plan, but it was not a recommendation
Yeah,
from the
that was the
SWAC or the
2019
plan.
report, Dale.
Okay. So that's no such topic, no. It's not gonna happen.
Well, that was a 2019 report that was submitted to county council and approved by them, but that was different report. That's the one Shali's gonna
Oh, yeah,
submit.
no, I know. That's the, yeah, she's talking about the
Yeah, two different reports.
solid waste being transported. Yeah, I got,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Are there any other major, I'm sorry, we're crashing through. It's almost 6 o'clock here in Maryland. Other solid waste highlights that anybody wants to make? Got your green waste data. There was an update put in the record, the public record, Dell, if you saw that.
I did, thank you. So the
And
inventories at both stations are good right now. They have been moving the mulch, from what I hear.
wastewater, we beat that one enough. Pahala and
Can
Alehu
I be a can I be a pain and ask one more quick question for
about
wastewater?
wastewater?
About the testimony, yeah, about the testimony submitted.
Sure.
Or did we pass? Did I
Wait,
pass
wait,
my
no,
opportunity
I'm
to do that?
Sarah. Wait, where do I have Puako? It was on here someplace. Oh, it's under the questions from commissioners. So
Okay,
right
so
now
I'll
I'm
just
just
wait.
kind of running through the if there are any highlights that Ramsey or Chris would like to make from the wastewater division as part of the director's report.
Chris, you want to take a stab at it? If he's still online. Chris?
Yeah, so
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
as far as updates, we're in the process of, awarding the Pahala collection system construction project. So currently, we're awarding that. Additionally, Hilo is still out for bid. I believe, we're addressing a protest that came in. So, we have a process, procurement rules that we need to follow on that. Our AOC overall, if you've reviewed the AOC projects, we have projects requiring, repair, rehabilitation of the Kealakekee wastewater treatment plant, Holly Halavai, Pua Force Main, and some other, various projects. Those are on track. on schedule. In terms of, our programmatic efforts, we're still, going through our ordinance revisions and really, working currently, our pretreatment team is working on a program narrative. Basically what the program narrative that they're doing is a synthesis of, what the requirements are and kind of our implementation plan. And we're going through that internally before we, release that out for, with the regulation, with the proposed ordinance changes for public comment. And then, so that's as far as updates. That's where we are. Bahala treatment plant, that design contract is underway and on track. And so that's where we are. As far as the public testimony at this time, I'm not prepared just honestly to, fully answer and respond to that. Perhaps Ramsey could, provide some insight. I will be, however, prepared, next meeting.
I have one
Okay,
question.
maybe to jump
Right.
to the question about Puaco, is that what you're interested in, Erica? And
I
if
can, yeah, if
people-
Dell wanted to go, if she was responding to Chris, I can hold on.
Oh, sorry. Did
I'm
you have a
sorry, I
question?
just saw her
No.
hand come up.
Yeah, I did on that AOC, the recent one in April, that addresses the violations to our wastewater plants, addressing Puhi Bay. So that's the reason why I would like to have a copy of the ASM. But the preventive maintenance program for sewer lines, you've already developed a plan for preventive maintenance. And was anybody affected by the water while they were camping at Kilkaha? Do you know? Because I understand Christy was supposed to take any communication from the campers at Puhi Bay. Was there anybody that reported some kind of infection from the water, Christy? And about checking the lab results or the reports, we have copies of the lab reports from that? Or
Hey,
can we get?
everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I took phone calls from the community, and no, I did not receive reports of anyone that reported like an infection or getting sick. Mostly the community had deep, valid concerns about why they didn't know in time. So my discussion with the community was, I was new. I think I was here like a week when it happened, but now we have opened more doors to connecting with our community. So aside from just a press release, we began using social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. And as of this week, we are on Nextdoor. And Nextdoor can target specific communities when things happen. So along with the required press release that I will do in the event of an emergency, I will also post across social media. And I just shared this with Ramsey and Brenda. We actually had, an event, a hurricane, and I posted to social media for the first time in the emergency response phase. And we had a lot of people, we had a whole lot of hits, actually. People were looking to social media for support and help during those times. So my hope is that now that I'm here and now that I'm up and running, we will have better communication moving forward. So no one shared with me that they got sick, but they definitely shared with me that they wanted better communication.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much.
Glad you're here.
Well, in addition to that, first I want to give Christy kudos for bringing our outreach quickly within the last 3 weeks by having all these social media, Nextdoor, a newsletter, our website is being updated constantly. She set a great system where she meet with us and and we capture them, the issues that's the community need to address, and we address it right away through educational program. Just to follow up with Dale's question, we had a community meeting with Keakaha community last week. And then we presented one of the good things that we need to share with you. Sea Engineering, we hired Sea Engineering to monitor the outfall. So they brought divers. They dove through the entire length of that outfall. They documented the condition of that, and fortunately, and good news that we didn't have any leaks along the entire stretch of that 3/4 to a long mile of outfall. So they ended up doing a dye testing. It worked perfectly. The dye came out of the diffusers as it need to, because the diffusers are at the end of that outfall. So it was good finding, and we shared that with the community members. We also shared with the community members our progress on the Gila Waste Treatment Plan and the PUA Force Main projects, because these are 2 projects within the current AOC as well. So we mandated by EPA to rehab all these facilities, and we not only doing rehabbing, actually we changing the process at Gila. We're gonna go from biotrickling filter to activated sludge, which is gonna give us better treatment for nutrient removal.
Okay.
We took samples of the water during the whole process. We shared it with the community as well. A lot of people, when they see brown water, they think it's Gila Waste Treatment Plant. That's misinformation. The Gila Waste Treatment Plant water is as clear as your drinking water, so it's not a brown water. So I just want to make sure, and we address that, because I know during the event last weekend for that, Matson barge, I think they disturbed the bottom of the bay, and they turned this water all to brown water, and we got flooded with phone concerns and phone calls. But this has nothing to do with our department, has nothing to do with our waste treatment plant. So I just want to make sure you guys don't take misinformation and explore it, because it's not beneficial. So we need to make sure that we as a professional understand the difference between brown water and, reclaimed water from the Gila treatment plant. They're not the same. So I just want to make sure you all know that.
Link the presentation Ramsey's referring to so that you guys can have it. And I am actively working on our website, and this will all be posted on our site. In the presentation, we shared ways for our community to read the report that Ramsey's referring to. It's linked in the presentation. You can watch the full dive. It's beautiful. It's on YouTube. And we shared that with the community. And we shared how to monitor your own waterway, and I showed them how to zoom in on Puhi Bay and check the water on the EPA website. That's linked on our homepage of our website now. And then how to sign up for alerts when things happen, unfortunately, if things happen in the future.
Right. And also,
it was I just wanted to say to Ramsey and Christy, it was a good presentation. I have to say, I was impressed. I do have a question though about the dye. So we saw the person dump a 5-gallon bucket. How much dye do you drop in for an outfall that long?
Well, it's all calculated, right? It's not a 5-gallon bucket. I think in the report, it tells you the amount they needed for that length, because they have to calculate based on the water volume and based on the distance. So it's all calculated in the report. They used the
It was a good report.
yeah.
It was a good report. It's just that when the person was dumping the dye, it seemed like it was just a repeat of the same person doing the same thing. So I just want to know, do you have an idea as to how much dye was dropped in based on your calculations for the distance of the outfall? I mean,
Yeah,
just
in
to
the
give us.
report. It's in the
Okay.
report. I don't have the exact number, but
It's in the
it tells
report.
you exactly
I was out there
much.
with her and she would like, it tells you exactly. She had a computer with her and she was logging exactly what she was doing and the timing. And she was also communicating with the divers. So she knew they started all the way out and she knew as they moved forward. And I was there for the last, actually, I think that video might be the very last time she did it. So it was like strategically planned to release just the right amount that they needed for the testing.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have a methodology and process. They a third-party consultant. We usually don't direct them what to do and not to do because they own the line for making sure to meet with all state and local mandates. They the expert matter. They do that for a living, day in, day out. So
I hope you had a chance to look through the ERP, the emergency response procedures that Chris Barber gave us. They're pretty fulsome if you go through all the appendices and read through the protocols and the requirements for reporting and how they do the testing. Dorothy, you had a comment.
Yeah. You mentioned that brown water is not the same as, reclaimed water. And I was wondering, well, the whole east side of Kona had a brown water alert during the hurricane or right after, and that's mostly due to runoff. That's right? And is that the DOH responsibility and not ours?
that's true, Dot. I think you bring in a good point. I was gonna follow up to Dale's question is, and to all of you is, the state has certain obligation, the county has certain obligation. Our obligation is to monitor our wastewater facilities that end up discharging to the ocean because we under a requirement under DOH. The beach, it's a state water. It's not a county water. The shoreline is a state water, not a county water. So the state is the lead entity when it comes to monitoring all the shoreline. That's why they put the advisories. The advisories come from the Department of Health. If you look at the link and if you all sign up to receive notification comes from Department of Health to all of us, even comes to the county. So when they have brown water advisory, yes, it's due to the hurricane stormwater or flood water. So it's because it carries sediment with it and it carries soil and everything that it gets in its way, right? Because it's either going to come through a drainage channel, or it's coming through a natural stream or river or creek, and it end up being at the bottom of the bay. So that's what they refer to. I received, I think, about maybe close to 10 advisory on my phone pertaining to that brown water just yesterday, I believe, or early this morning. So yes, when you see brown water, it's a sign of sediment transport that took place through streams, through stormwater, because what happened is scours the soil with it and all the dirt that it's in its path, and it takes it to the shoreline. And when and it turns the entire shoreline to look as brown, because of the sediment. I remember walking down LA Drive by Papakona restaurant. The whole area was brown because we have that drainage channel that was flooding, got so much water, and it just went right straight into the shoreline. And I think the entire area was so brown, it just the water surface. So yeah, there's certain roles and responsibility, and thank you for bringing it out, because I just want to share it with you. It's, from a county point of view, is our authority and obligation to meet what we are mandated to meet through federal and state laws, and the state takes the roles and responsibility to monitor shorelines and state water.
Okay, I'm gonna move us along since it's approaching witching hour. We have good news on the staff side, I understand. You don't
Share
know?
it with me.
I was told you hired an HR person.
Oh yeah. I thought you were gonna say something else because that was still confidential. So, but I haven't. But yeah, I mean, at least I could share with you the HR. Yes, we were able to hire HR. Started yesterday. She came from Oregon State, experience in HR. So hopefully we look forward to start working on HR issues, and we doing a reorg for the department. That's our priority number one, because that was mandated under the AOC as well. There's a lot of moving targets. The AOC covered pretty much everything that it needs to put us back on track. And HR is going to help us, hopefully. And I'm still requesting another HR position just for wastewater, and I think that's maybe what you guys need to do, send a recommendation to add that position, because the wastewater needs its own HR. I met with the wastewater staff, and I could understand their frustration. I'm frustrated as well, because a year and a half, it just running on a skeleton. I mean, technically we have one HR person. When that person gone, everything froze, which is crazy. But my understanding, we cannot ask for another HR, but I'm trying to fight that as well. We need HR specialists, one just for the wastewater, because we under mandates. If we miss deadlines, it's major fines and violations. So I'm fighting that fight with the Department of Human Resource. Hopefully they come around and help us as well. And we're doing reorg for the department to streamline it better. Wastewater division, it was a hierarchy, like a pyramid. There's no way one person could do collection, do design, oversee construction, oversee maintenance, oversee operation. There's no way. So we split in that division, and we proposing a new division for engineering, focus on capital projects within the AOC. So it's a proposal to allow for hire more qualified staffing for the needed tasks and challenges. Operation need to focus on operation. They don't need to be blindsided with another 100 different topics. So we feel good, but it's just a matter of just getting the Department of Human Resources and everybody else trying to get buy off. But our HR, hopefully now she can start leading that forward.
Well, definitely wish you luck. To move on to the questions, I'll defer my question, which was about how's it going with Kalapana extra day from Resource Pain. But I'll assume you're coping. So to get to Puako, I hope all of you had a chance to read Barbara Bell's comments. She had some good questions in her letter. And Erica, I don't know if you want to follow through on representing the interests coming out of Puako.
I'm happy to answer questions. I also just have a clarifying question of my own.
Okay.
I was reviewing the what was shared with the Puako community in, I think, a few weeks ago during an update. And I just had a quick question, Ramsey, in that what was presented to the community was for the development of a gravity fed line. And it just kind of made me question what other types of resources were being kind of, I guess, spent on investigating gravity fed lines in low shore lined areas. And if the bids that are going out are actually going to be focused more on infrastructure that promotes climate mitigation strategies and that could bring down capital investment costs and not use gravity fed lines. There's a great deal of research that has come out of Puako from both resource impact as well as engineering that kind of has just already ruled out gravity fed lines. So I was very surprised to see that being something that was going back to the Puako community and looked at really kind of at all. So I was just wanting a little bit more clarity on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Erica. Let me first address Kalapana. Georgia and Kalapana, as you guys all know, you know, it came after the budget was approved, so we have to request additional funding. And hopefully we get about $100,000 to subsidize that additional day. I know the methodology in which it was brought after the budget rather than before the budget, but it wasn't like we have the money and we have the staffing. So technically we renting equipment, like Dale said. Our staff is renting equipment to be able to provide these services, and they shovel in. We had an unfunded position that we're trying to get it funded. So it's staff are monitoring that as well. So for next year budget, we'll have a better idea of how much that additional day is going to cost. But it's we provided the day, as you know, and we provided because, like I said, our intent, like yours, it was we never had an issue. It need to be asked for through the process of budgeting, similar to Ocean View. But unfortunately, it wasn't taken that way. But it's neither here or there. You know, we rented equipment, and they shovel in staff till we get that unfunded position funded. So staff doing a good job trying to provide the service, but go outside the box to make sure we get the right resources. As far as Erica's question, you're right, Erica, that was it's not DM project. That was the community received $300,000 through Corolla to do that analysis. So it wasn't driven by the department or the county. It was privately independent with the community, I think, nonprofit, and with Corolla. So that report
It was an EFC. It was an EFC study. I know that speaking with Barbara, the community was very off-put about being introduced
it was
to
in our
gravity fed.
study. I just want to make sure it's not DM study. We did
So
not.
it's not going to be used as a support document or support research into the integrated wastewater master plan or the Puuko South Kohala wastewater master plan. It's just going to be completely standalone.
I think in talking to Carrie, she said EPA, they got a $300,000 from EPA to help that community, and they did it, but we probably end up using it as reference document, but it's not going to be part of the system that they're going to use. They're going to use. They had a presentation with the manufacturer, Christie, from that low pressure, and it seemed like all the community wanted to go with that low pressure system, and they already, I believe, came to that conclusion prior to even the study, Erica.
Yeah, that's why I was confused about it, is that I know that the community didn't request that. And I think that if it actually is utilized as any kind of support document for our county planning uses, it should be utilized to represent that gravity fed sewer systems are not financially feasible or feasible even from an engineering perspective for our shoreline areas for our county.
It depends. We cannot sign off on anything until we do that. I mean, they did the investigation, but remember, they took that gravity and only divided it for the 109 homes rather than dividing it for all property facing that gravity line. So you cannot penalize that community to pay for the entire gravity line if the entire stretch of property is going to be able to benefit from it. So I have issues with the way it was calculated by Corolla, because they only took the capital cost, divided it by the number of homes going to connect, rather than by all properties facing that sewer line, which it didn't make sense to me. That's why it came up $400,000 per connection or something.
Yeah, it went from the aqua engineering study with the low pressure system at 15 million to 113 million to sewer Puuko with a gravity fed line. So that was a very alarming number to see. And to the point that I'm making is that if that's, what it is taking to implement gravity fed sewer lines, then alternative mechanisms and infrastructure should be looked at that one could lower capital costs as well as promote climate mitigation strategies that are outlined in our climate mitigation plan.
That is, we look at multiple options. I think you were involved in Puna District Master Plan. We also doing it as part of the integrated. We're looking at all options. We're looking at I believe three different options to provide. Gravity is one of them. So even for the cesspool conversion, the study, we have tables that compare costs to multiple options. Even for our cesspool conversion master plan, some of the studies recommend low pressure because it ends up being cheaper. So yes, we study the feasibility, and it becomes site specific because it depends how far is your current collection system from what you're going to connect to. So there's multiple factor plays with it, but you're right. I mean, what makes our decision is the financial aspect of the system.
Yeah, I believe it was used for the KL collection system, which is, I think, again, resulting in these astronomical prices that the county then obviously doesn't have the funding or financing for.
No, Kiao and Pahua and Puna we done analysis for 4 different options, low pressure. We even done analysis to get a sewer line connected to Hilo. And we done gravity. So the dollar that we came up, we gave range from 4 billion to 11 billion. I think that 11 billion probably requires more excavation, gravity. You could do it up to $4 billion, but you have a window. So it wasn't all gravity. So if you read the report, it was very, very detailed ACOM report. Yeah, we looked at running that 2-inch sewer line, low pressure, less excavation,
I'm
decentralized.
gonna call time on this topic too.
So Erica,
And
we had a
the
lot
point
of
is we've got
information.
this study and we can use it how we need it. Sometimes it's good to have a dollar sign associated with the
Multiple
bad
options.
option. At least you've got some documentation on why it's a bad option. But it would be nice to have spent the 300,000 on something useful.
Well,
I guess I
Erica,
would
let me just
recommend
say one
looking
thing,
at
Georgia.
the comments that were made in Barbara Bell's question. Maybe funding is always the challenge, and where does it come from? And maybe that can get rolled back into looking at the possible motions that could come up next time in terms of how do we support or point to other ways of providing funding for all this cesspool conversion work. Whether it's connection fees or connection mandates along with a fee, looking at these different facility districts, service areas, pots of money that can be funneled together. What kinds of, I thought an interesting question that she'd asked is, what kind of guarantees can the county provide? You're trying to project what the costs are going to be over a long period of time, especially when you're talking private, public, and who's going to own what. And yeah, we'll carry it for a while. I mean, some of these subdivisions will build their own quick and dirty private wastewater treatment, and then they evaporate away and there's nobody running the development anymore. And here's this stuff that needs to be maintained and extended. Who's going to keep footing the bill? Is it something the county can even commit to taking on? So anyway, I thought there were some really interesting questions that she had, and would ask those of you who are going to try to come up with great ideas for motions for next meeting can look at. And then this last item under this section was whether or not you guys, it sounds like you have done some communication with certainly the emergency folk on spill response. And again, who's talking to who when there is a load of water or waste going into a bay, how it gets posted, who does the posting. Again, I don't know there's a magic number, but I was hoping, and it sounds like you are looking, certainly with Christy, on how to open up those lines of communication so that we make sure the public is protected and knows when to take care. So I'll call that one done. Anything else you want to include in your director report, Ramsey?
No, I'm sorry. I've been having lagging in my internet, so no.
Okay. Future agenda items. I've got a few deferred items here. Anybody else wants to have some recommendations. Apologies to Laura. Yeah, I'll keep putting it on and we'll keep deferring it. I'm sorry. We'll try to make sure that we cover it, but I agree with Erica. I think we had some really good conversation and information exchanges happening today. Next meeting announcements will be in Hilo September 25th. And as always, also Zooming. Any other announcements from anybody? Del? You're muted?
Thank you. Just a couple things. It's good to hear that there's an HR person now. And as much as I'd love to volunteer, maybe it would be nice to invite someone from HR to let us know what the process is. Is that a good recommendation? And if we could have copies to the ASM, because I think it'll better inform us to make, advisory recommendations. Is that possible? That was it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? And the time is for a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn. No.
A second. Del, thank you. All in favor? Log off.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very
Enjoy
much.
your vacation. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.